Hi. Okay, so it is morning on Tuesday, August 5th, and it is cycle day 19 for me of the usual 29, and I am saying that I am 1 DPO. So, period tracker and Ovia both thought I ovulated on Saturday or Friday, and Fertility Friend has yet to give me a cover line or an ovulation day. My temp spiked a little this morning, but not significantly. And yeah, so I think though, I'm going to see if you guys can see this. I had an ovulation dip a couple of days ago, and then it's been going up since. But I think I only ovulated yesterday, based on the rest of my fertility signs. And yeah, so I looked back over some of my old charts and things, and it just struck me now that I think I have a really short luteal phase. I'd always just assumed that I was ovulating around when my apps and stuff were estimating, but I really, looking back over the info that I had logged and I had kept track of, I don't think that's the case. I think that my luteal phase is 10 days, which has totally freaked me out. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw that I posted last night that I was totally freaked out. I have a bunch of comments on it that I haven't looked at yet this morning, so I don't know. I really got myself freaked out, so I think this morning I'm going to go out and see if I can find B6. I did a little research, and it sounds like there are a few things you can try to lengthen your luteal phase, and one of them is progesterone cream, which sounds a little bit like too much of a step for me right now. And then vitamin B6 is also listed as something that can help. And then Vitex, but Vitex apparently takes a few cycles to work, so I'm thinking I'll order it online, and then if we don't get our BFP this month, I'll start taking it next cycle. But yeah, so I'm a little bit worried about that, and I was thinking back over my first pregnancy and how the timeline sort of went, and I'm really convinced that I have an issue with my endocrine lining or progesterone, and that was what contributed to that miscarriage. So I'm just going to run through the dates on that. Like, there's not a lot to update you on as far as my current 1 DPO status. I think my CM has dried up. My cervix is starting to drop. I'm just 1 DPO, nothing really is going on. So, but like I said, I only have a 10-day luteal phase, so it's like a week and a half wait until I'll test. But more about that at the end of this. So I'm going to talk now through the dates of my first pregnancy and why I think I am convinced that there's an issue that I don't know how I just got this. I think I've just read Taking Charge of Your Fertility, and I've kind of done more research, and I'm just sort of getting a handle on it, and I think now looking back, you know, what did I say, hindsight is 20/20, I'm definitely falling into that trap. So, okay, so I conceived in April, and my last menstrual period before I conceived was the very end of March. It started on March 29th, and I had assumed that I ovulated then the middle of April, but looking back and looking at my info, I definitely did not. I think I ovulated on April 17th and had a 10-day luteal phase, and then on the 27th of April, which would have been right on time at a 29-day cycle, I started bleeding and had I started spotting 2 days before, which is exactly what happens for every period I've ever had. And my periods are like clockwork. They are exactly the same every month. So I have a couple days of light spotting, some like goes from just when you wipe to like a little tiny bit of pink, but nothing bright red. And then on the 3rd day-ish, I get bright red. So I had what felt like a completely normal period from the 27th of April all the way through to the 2nd of May. And it acted like a normal period. Looking back, it's a little lighter. I marked it as a little bit lighter than typical, but when I was during it, it felt the same. I always get really bad backaches and really bad cramps the first day. Had both of those, had the same, same symptoms mood-wise as I have always had. So I don't know what that was, but I was pregnant during that time. So I would have been, according to my first ultrasound and the date I ovulated, I would have been measuring about 3.5 to 4 weeks during that time. Not a full 4 weeks like you should be. And then I got a new batch of OPKs in, and on the 5th of May, I started taking them, and from the 5th to the 11th, had super dark positive OPKs. And on the 11th, I got my BFP, and according to that, I had ovulated. I did a clear blue weeks estimator, and according to that, had ovulated 3 weeks prior. So it was like I was, instead of getting 1 to 2, I was getting 2 to 3, and it was right after a period, so I could not have gotten pregnant in May. I hadn't ovulated yet in May. I had gotten pregnant in April. So I had a normal period in March, and then at the end of April, I had conceived in April and had a short luteal phase, and then had really heavy bleeding that I took to be a normal period. And then it was carried the baby all the way through until, 1 second, I have it all written down, but my phone's being slow. I carried the baby, and baby grew all the way through the end of May. And at the end of May, I was 7 weeks and a little bit, and I had blood work done at the end of May, and then between May 29th, which is when I got my first blood work, and June 3rd, which is when I got my second blood work, the baby died, which would be exactly line with me ovulating that end of April with a 10-day luteal phase. So I'm totally convinced that heavy bleeding contributed to the eventual loss of my baby, but that I didn't actually lose her at that time, that she grew for a little bit longer, but that I have some kind of deficiency with my progesterone or endocrine lining, and so there wasn't enough left in there to support her. So, because you have to get to like 10 weeks before that lining is no longer needed to support the baby, or is less needed or something. So I'm convinced that that's the issue. So I'm wondering if, even if I conceive this cycle, if I've conceived and if I'm going to get pregnant, if I'll still have that heavy bleeding, or if I'll still have bleeding at what I think is my period, because my body can't catch on fast enough in order for me to not get a period. And then I wonder if that's going to contribute to recurrent miscarriages. And I don't know, obviously, I'm just speculating, but I'm pretty convinced. And so I kind of am wondering if I should call my doctor and talk to her about it. She really never, every time I was there was sort of like a rushed time. I was never, because my appointments were never meant to be as long as they ended up being, so we kind of had to rush. So I'm wondering if she would agree with me, or if she'll, I think what would happen if I called her and just sort of told her all this is she would tell me to wait and see if we got pregnant, and that she would do betas and progesterone level tests and monitor that. And then if there's an issue, or if we lose another baby, that she would maybe supplement progesterone or something. So, and maybe I'm totally spazzing, and all the literature I've seen, I was reading it in What to Expect Before You're Expecting, Taking Charge of Your Fertility, and online, says that 10 days is sort of the minimum, is the very bottom of what they consider a normal range, and under 10 days is really problematic, but that 10 or 11 days can be problematic. So I don't know. Knowing my luck, it's like, oh, there's like a 5% chance something will go wrong, and I'm pretty much always in that 5%. So, yeah, so that's what's going on. I know that was a lot of information, and no one probably cares about all those dates, but it's really, really freaking me out. So if you have a short luteal phase, or you have other suggestions, things that I'm going to try, I think I'm going to start with the B6 this cycle, because the what I've read online says to start that the day after ovulation, so that would be today. And then if that doesn't do anything, or if I don't feel like that has helped, or if I don't get my BFP or whatever, I think maybe I'll start Vitex and progesterone cream next month. But I don't want to jump in without doing research on those, because they seem a little bit more invasive than the B6 for some reason. I don't know. Anyways, this is a long video, but hopefully you guys have some words of wisdom for me. So, yeah.